Hello, YouTube. You may have read the title and wondered who they are. They are the big companies of the world, and you may also be wondering why I said you can't move up. Well, that's not exactly true. You can move up, but 99.99% of the time it will be due to bigger companies. Like on YouTube, let's say you get a sponsor. A lot of people who get sponsors on YouTube start out not even monetized when they get that sponsor. I don't have a script for this, so I do apologize. I had a script, but it just didn't work with me. I just didn't want to use that, so breathe. You can move up through the world. That is possible, but it is almost impossible to do it without bigger companies backing you up. And that's not exactly what moving up in the world is. That's more like scaffolding. You're not scaffolding and not building anything with it, basically. Because a company withdraws their little line on your scaffolding, your whole thing will come falling down. And that's not moving up in the world, that's more of a false sense of that. Now, you may be wondering what I mean by that, but let's say workers decide to go on strike for a company. Okay, yeah, that happens a lot. But they got other workers. Doesn't matter if a couple hundred go on strike. It'd matter if all of them did. But they got robots now. But the best example would honestly be like a drink company. Nestle. I'm not going with Nestle for this because that's probably going to have its own separate, shorter video, honestly. But Coca-Cola. Let's say you decide to buy Fuse Tea Fuse, something like that. And you're like, I've read something bad about this online. People are striking against this. And you're like, different drink. Let me give it a chance. And it's another one of their tea lines. But you don't see that as Coca-Cola because it's under a different name. But it's still Coca-Cola, so in the end, it just ends up back in the same hands it would. And you don't know that because you're not thinking that companies own hundreds of other companies. Coca-Cola owns over 200 different companies worldwide. And I could only think of one that I knew they owned off the top of my head, except for the things that have Coca-Cola literally printed on it. But still, let me put that down. And I'm just going to do a quick tangent on the media at large. Like, what do you watch shorts on? I'll give you a second thing about that. Just scrolling, doom scroll. Most likely on TikTok now. It used to be Instagram. Some people still use Instagram. But majority use TikTok. There's no script. I want to make sure of this. The script was on my phone, but so I'm basically going with this on the fly. You enter TikTok most likely. Now, where do you watch long form videos? You're eating food. You're not going to be scrolling because your hand's going to be moving around that plate. Most likely YouTube. And if you want to watch something funny, you're most likely going to Instagram. And if you want to chat, I know this is older, but Snapchat is still a viable option because a lot of people don't have numbers, so. That's just like all the social media people ever really use. And they're all owned by a few corporations. And there's really no social media these days that isn't. But you may be wondering what that really means. They have complete and utter control of what you say, what you type. They see everything. They can influence what you're seeing. They can influence your thinking. This is definitely a conspiracy at this point, but I don't care. But, they have their greedy little hands on you. Because, hey man, there's really nothing else I can do. But there is. If you want to be able to basically take back control. This sounds so conspiracy coded, but it's really not. before I say how you can take back control, I want to just mention that a drink company, PepsiCo, owned a movie company, media, same thing, really. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. I'll go into things like that later, but well, in a different video, because this is only part one of a few. By the way, if you're liking this so far, it's just a random tangent on media controlling everything. Subscribe, because there's gonna be different parts. Probably will eventually get better, because I don't care how many views this gets. This is going to be a series. But if you want to take back control, do your research. Right? Read up on things. You may have to use Google, Yahoo, Bing, that Microsoft one, Explorer, something like that. I don't even know what that is. Series, Internet Explorer. Yeah, that's what the Microsoft is. You may have to use those, but in the end, it's better to see what you're buying and who you're buying it from. Do research on the companies you're buying from, because that just helps the bad people get even badder. Look at United States president. All of them. This isn't a hate thing on Donald Trump. All the presidents. I'm not going to say anything political, but all the presidents are bad people in general. Obama, he's done some questionable things, like revealing the biggest, the toughest military team probably in history. Joe Biden, not to get political, but Russia pipeline. Donald Trump, not to get political, but straight apart moves. So, yeah. I want to mention, I don't like any of them. Anyway, this is part one of a few. Short video. I will still make Minecraft, but I just love tangents on this type of stuff. I normally have a script ready for this type of stuff, but I just didn't want to use that day. So, if you liked it, like, subscribe, and hit that little weird bell looking thing